This is a show about getting spooked for fun, and neither one of the hosts are associated with the attractions discussed in any way, except for those skeletons in Devin's closet. Some topics may go from ghoulish to ghastly, so viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to the Great American Scream.
Hey Adam, so happy Halloween first of all. It's now over. Everybody's sad about it, but more importantly, I got a text from my mother the other day. Do you want to hear about it?
I do. And for full disclosure, we're recording this the day before Halloween, so I hope everybody has fun tomorrow and also in the past. But yeah, I do want to hear about the text you got from your mom.
Yeah, first, I'm also going to do a little sidebar before we get into the intro bit, before we get into the podcast. So, first of all, I hope you had a fun Halloween, everyone. I hope you are having an okay day today. It's a very hard day. We're going to try to be light, but, keep your head down. Hopefully our work turns out to have been worth it. Things constantly threaten to get much better for a lot of people, and hopefully this time they do. Anyway, I got a text from my mother, and she said that she had listened to the podcast, which she doesn't do often, but she texted me and said, "Have you heard of Hooker Man?"
Which is a crazy sentence to ask just anybody.
A very crazy sentence to ask, especially to your young bisexual son who, ran in some circles in college.
Okay.
A very weird question, but what she was talking about was a cryptid that I had never heard of before. Have you heard of Hooker Man?
No. When you described him to me, I didn't think he was going to be a cryptid, but...
Well, he's like man-hand hook car door.
Okay.
But his story is that he got hit by a train and then his hand is a hook now. And that's the whole thing.
They don't explain how kind of A led to B. It's just that one day.
Yeah. Like the presumption is that he's in New Jersey. Like that's the only explanation, which
we know
for a lot of people.
Three things about this man: hit by a train, hook for a hand, lives in New Jersey.
Which I guess for a lot of us, I guess myself included, is enough. Like, I do kind of get it.
Yeah, those are three, I think, very identifying facts. Like, if you told me to, find this person, you're like, hey, I need you to pick up something for my friend in the Target parking lot. He was hit by a train, has a hook for a hand, and is from New Jersey. I'd probably be able to find him.
Yeah, I feel like if I said to you, I'm going to tell you three things and tell me if you're confused or not, I would say, a man got hit by a train. You're confused. He has a hook for a hand. I'm even more confused. He lives in New Jersey. I am no longer confused.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The only other signifying ending for that would be him living in Florida. Both could happen.
Yes.
Except that trains in Florida are not as good unless it's the Amtrak.
Right. Yeah. No trains in Florida.
No trains in Florida. Hopefully
or a monorail.
Hopefully trains in Florida soon. I think they're... Soon. Anyway, this is not about trains in Florida, but this is about cryptids.
The nationwide high-speed rail network is an ally of the Great American Scream.
Yeah.
And also a cryptid.
Also a cryptid. I've always wanted to cover cryptids and cryptozoology on this show. The study of animals, of myth and legend and folklore. And I think there's a difference between what we think of as a cryptid versus a mythical creature. Because we think of mythical creatures as unicorns, griffins, dragons, and then a cryptid.
Yeah, I thought you were going to draw a line between urban legends and cryptids, because there is a difference. Well, like we alluded to, man-hand hook car door and probably Hooker Man are not really cryptids, but Mothman, Sasquatch.
Yeah,
those are cryptids.
I think what really defines cryptids,
now adding a third circle of mythical creatures. So we say, Jersey Devil, Chupacabra, Griffin.
I just thought that was interesting. I mean, I feel like I separate because cryptozoology and the science and the study of cryptozoology is specifically referring to animals and creatures. And not only its presence in fiction, but it as a field of study and a community and a movement. Because people, especially scientists, are very quick to call cryptozoology pseudoscience, to which it is. It's okay. It's okay.
Right. But it's also, it's not meant to be science. It's sociology. And
it's I think it's very, just because the creatures aren't real or are not yet proven to be real doesn't mean they're not important to study from an anthropological standpoint and a sociological standpoint. And I think it's really fascinating. So I'd like to dive a little bit into the history of cryptozoology and maybe talk about a few of the most famous members of the Cryptid Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so first, before that, hi, welcome to the Great American Stream. My name's Devin Wright.
My name's Adam O'Connell.
And right before we get into the meat of the episode, we're going to take a quick break. Hey guys, Devin from the future here, checking in before the meat of the episode to let you know that we have launched our Patreon. You can check us out at patreon.com/greatscreampod. That is patreon.com/greatscreampod. We have great perks there, including early access to episodes, voting on episode topics, exclusive live streams with Adam and I, and it's a fun time. So if you have some spare resources, we know it's a tough time for a lot of people, but anybody who does have the means to support us and is willing to do so, please check it out. Once again, that is patreon.com/greatscreampod. Adam, please tell us about some cryptids.
Alrighty, so we got to go back first and kind of figure out where this field of study came from. And while cryptids have their origins dating back centuries in folklore and storytelling, the field and the study of cryptozoology really rose to prominence in the 1950s. It's a pretty recent.
Okay, so we're not talking about like who was the first cryptid. We're jumping right to cryptozoology as a field of study.
Yeah, because
tell me about it.
It's way more interesting than you think. So Bernard Heuvelmans was
I'm already in.
He was a Belgian-French scientist, explorer, researcher, and considered one of the fathers of modern cryptozoology. He earned a doctorate in zoology from the Free University of Brussels in 1939.
And then a doctorate in cryptocurrency, and then he became a cryptozoologist.
During World War II, he escaped from a Nazi prison camp and then went on to be a jazz singer in Paris while he was working on his studies and writing his articles and books.
Hell yeah, Bernard.
This guy is really cool. But so he was really heavily inspired by the works of like Jules Verne and specifically the Arthur Conan Doyle book, The Lost World. And he began the study of what he called hidden animals. He specifically cited a 1948 Saturday Evening Post article titled There Could Be Dinosaurs, written by British biologist Ivan T. Sanderson, who argued that there could be dinosaurs.
If we believe.
I mean, yeah, basically the idea that if that in the remote parts of the world that there could still be dinosaurs because we just haven't been there. So what do we know?
Adam, I'm so proud of that.
Yeah, that was good.
I got transported back to 7th grade all-state choir.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Thank you.
So Sanderson is considered the other father of cryptozoology for these reasons. He became famous after claiming to see, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this, an Olitau, an Olitu. It is a cryptid. Yeah, it is a cryptid from Central Africa that has been, he described as the quote, granddaddy of all bats.
Oof. I'm really liking these two people,
yeah,
the two husbands who are fathers of cryptozoology. It's just a big bat.
Yeah, so Sanderson is actually believed to have originally coined the term cryptozoology. Heuvelmans credits him with that. He wrote a book called Abominable Snowmen, which argued that there are 4 types of abominable snowmen scattered across 5 continents.
Welcome to the Himalayas.
Yeah, abominable snowmen basically referring to like the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, that kind of genre of cryptid, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Abominable snowmen specifically, I think because of like
the genre.
The old timey weird like mysticism of like, oh, the Himalayas in the east, that like there's that there was creatures living in the mountains, but that dates back way further than he does, and we'll talk about that later. But so this book was criticized by the scientific community for having evidence of low standards, as most of it was just descriptions of footprints that he saw and anecdotes from people who claimed to have seen some of these abominable snowmen.
Footprints and Anecdotes is a good band name.
His credibility was pretty severely damaged due to the Great Penguin Hoax of the Giant Penguin Hoax, rather, of 1948.
Tell me more.
Yeah, so when giant 3-toed footprints were found on the beach in Clearwater, Florida, and Sanderson claimed that these footprints were impossible to fake and definitive evidence of 15-foot tall penguins.
Yes, I'm in. Yes. Give me the penguins. They are so tall and I love them so much.
However, in 1988, 40 years later, Prankster Tony Signorini admitted that he'd made the prints with a pair of cast iron feet attached to high top sneakers. But
Tony.
by this point, Sanderson had passed away, so he never knew that. So
thank God.
Went his whole life thinking he was
grave.
right.
He went to his grave knowing that he was right in his own heart, which is all that matters.
And 1948 was also the year that he published this There Could Be Dinosaurs article, and that inspired Heuvelmans to go on his own writing. So Heuvelmans went on to write many books and articles about the science and the study of hidden animals. And although only a few of these works were translated into English, most were written in French, his most important work was On the Track of Unknown Animals, published, I think, originally in French in 1955 and then in English in 1958, and is credited with introducing the term cryptozoology to the scientific world at large. And Heuvelmans cites animals that have only been discovered recently, such as the pygmy chimpanzee, the Komodo dragon, and the giant panda, as evidence that any folkloric animal could be real.
That's fair. You live in a world where like you don't talk to people further than like maybe 50 to 100 miles away. And then all of a sudden you hear about a literal dragon who just happens to not have wings, a little person, like a very small and slightly hairy person who doesn't speak, and a big bear that's a panda. Like you would be like, oh, so dragon's real, right?
Yeah.
So Sasquatch real, right?
His whole idea was that these creatures were known to the local peoples of the area they're indigenous to, but they were dismissed by visiting zoologists because they'd never seen them, which again, like, that's a completely fair assumption to make. And particularly, he cites the Okapi as evidence of this. Okapi, who are indigenous to Africa. They're like a little antelope-like creature closely related to the giraffe, with hind legs that have the same markings as zebras. They're known as being insanely elusive. And when some researcher says like, oh, there's these little tiny things that have butts that look like zebras, but they're actually related to the giraffe, everyone was like, you're crazy, because they are very shy,
but that was unrelated.
Elusive. And they're also known as the ghosts of the forest. And I know that because of Kilimanjaro safaris in the Animal Kingdom.
Thank you, Kilimanjaro Safari.
He discusses evidence of creatures like the Yeti, the Mokole Membe, and the Loch Ness Monster with an extensive bibliography of anecdotes and sightings.
What is the Mokole Membe?
It is a South American, I believe. I didn't choose to cover him in this episode.
Well, great. You can't just say a cool name like Mokole Membe.
I know, I'm sorry. He can make an appearance. Pardon me. He is in Congo River Basin mythology. It's a water-dwelling entity, kind of like a smaller Loch Ness Monster in appearance. It is kind of the water serpent reptilian genre of cryptid. And
good for him.
He is very cool. But so he cited evidence of all these creatures existing from his own research. And this book was, I think, dismissed by scientists, but at the end had a message that, or he expressed the wish that any newly discovered species are not merely slaughtered for trophies, and ending with the quote, "Have pity on them all, for it is we who are the real monsters."
I mean,
yeah, again, like everything he's saying is insanely fair.
Right. He would have been lauded as like just a really good dude who knew a lot if he didn't think that Sasquatch was real, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So the term cryptid went on to be coined by cryptozoologist J.E. Wall in 1983 in the summer issue of the International Society of Cryptozoology newsletter.
People really did anything in the 80s.
Yeah, he stated that he found the term monster misleading and we should opt for cryptid instead. Because many of these cryptids are not monsters. They just want to hang out.
And especially for when so many cryptids are genuine, cultural, and historical objects of very often formerly colonized cultures. The word monster is really really bad to use.
So modern cryptozoology is focused on discovering evidence of the existence of species that may be centuries old, rather than typical biologists who are constantly discovering new species. So there's nobody's discovering new cryptids. we're still working on finding the old
Yeah, but that's
ones.
because culture is dead.
Yeah.
You know?
And earnestly, most prominent cryptozoologists don't have scientific or academic background, and it continues to be criticized by the greater scientific community as being pseudoscience or pseudo-archaeology, which I never considered that would be a thing, but that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does make sense. It kind of feels like, again, it feels like it could be, and it is. I mean, a lot of like intense cultural studies will talk about what we would consider cryptids, but it's not considered in any way associated with cryptozoology, even though it probably could be. But it's just when you say cryptozoology, you think of Grunkle Stan.
Yeah, it gets grouped in with like phrenology or like crystal healing.
Which also probably links to the American tradition of cryptozoology, which is very specific.
Yeah, absolutely. Cryptozoology is often viewed as the kind of rechanneling of the mysteriousness and sense of like adventure in a world that is now fully charted and overexplored. Like, we know what's out there, at least on the Earth.
Except in the ocean.
Except in some parts of the ocean, yeah. But for the most part, we know what's out there, and cryptozoology is chasing that excitement, that like Victorian era excitement of a time when we didn't know.
Right. And I would say like a good form of cryptozoology is understanding, even if it is a pseudoscience, that it is a narrative and cultural like fun thing to do, like harkening back to an age of new interactions between cultures and new interactions between histories is like really fascinating and kind of cool. So like when you're scamming people for $2 on the side of the road, not so good. When you're peddling another culture's mystical creatures as like weird and wacky, not so good. But when you're talking about it in like an interesting narrative way of saying we're harkening back to a time, that's cool.
Yeah, and the idea, like, there's something very, like, inherently exciting about wondering, could there be creatures or animals or anything that we don't know about wandering the forest or in the ocean?
Right, which there are.
Yes,
there are thousands and thousands and thousands of species we do not know about.
They just might not be Bigfoot.
Right, what if it was a cool lizard? Yeah.
Yeah. So there are several organizations dedicated to the study of cryptozoology. The Center for Fortean Zoology, and Fortean refers to the study of the works of Charles Fort, whose whole thing was chronicling unexplained phenomena of any kind, which a lot of times then went on to be explained phenomena. But so the Center for Fortean Zoology is a UK nonprofit that, along with studying cryptozoology, also studies other animal abnormalities like color variations, mutations, tetralogy, and folklore, as well as vampire and werewolf sightings.
That's neat.
Yeah, there's also the International Fortean Organization, a network of professional Fortean researchers and writers. The International Society for Cryptozoology, which I mentioned before, an American organization that existed from 1982 to 1998, rather, so it's not around anymore.
What was it about the year of both of our births that they were like, I'm out?
I was born in 97. So
gross. You're so
I was
old.
like I was like the omen for ending the
and then they heard that I was coming and they were like, no, we gotta end it.
And then Cosmopoisk, which is a Russian organization that studies ufology and cryptozoology.
Very good. I don't like the term ufology.
I was going back and forth on how to say that. Is it UFOlogy or is it?
It's unidentified flying objectology.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, we got to come
really,
up with a different word for UFO.
If you look at it, it should be pronounced ufology, which is worse.
Right. UFOlogy. It's bad.
That's how I want to say
a new name.
Yeah.
Let's come up with a new name like alien, but for unidentified flying objects. Because we can't just call them, can't call it like saucerology.
That would be funny though.
It would be funny. But that's already the study of ketchup. So,
I was thinking like specifically like tea saucers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I want to talk about some notable and most famous cryptids that probably you know about or maybe have heard of, but would like to know a little more information on the history and discovery of. There's 3 like flavors of cryptid I would like
Vanilla,
to go over today.
chocolate, strawberry, You put them together, Neapolitan cryptid.
Yeah, Neapolitan cryptids. Although this is barely kind of scratching the surface of the literal thousands of cryptids that exist around the world, but I think these are kind of the I don't like the species, the subgenre of the most well known. The first of them being like the Sasquatch. So this refers to Bigfoot, the Yeti, the skunk ape, the Sasquatch. There's a lot.
I love whoever came up with the name skunk ape.
We're gonna talk about the skunk ape, but first I want to talk about. So in general, the Sasquatch, the idea of a Sasquatch, they're like ape or gorilla-like creatures, often based in the old school kind of European like wild man folklore, meant to represent wildness and a connection to the very foundations of nature and like the animalistic nature of man.
Right, probably relates to like what is it, the Man of the Green and like Pan and satyrs and all that.
And this category is made perhaps the most famous by Bigfoot. And Bigfoot and Sasquatch are often used interchangeably to refer to the same creature, or interchangeably to be into two entirely different creatures. In my brain, Sasquatch refers to like the species of these ape humanoids, and then Bigfoot refers to this particular one or this particular species, because there's also a discrepancy as to whether Bigfoot is one or if Bigfoot is a species.
Right. In my head, Sasquatch is a species and Bigfoot is the one dude.
It's just the one.
If you see Bigfoot, you saw Bigfoot. If you saw a Sasquatch, you saw a Sasquatch.
Okay.
Or the Sasquatch. But then that seems like if you say the Sasquatch, you're talking about the Sasquatch that happens to live in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
You know?
So Bigfoot specifically is native to the forests of North America, with sightings noted all around the continent, and especially the northern United States and southern Canada, but is most spotted in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, where 1/3 of all Bigfoot sightings have occurred.
Hey, Adam, why isn't he called Big Feet?
I'm actually we're going to talk about why he's called Bigfoot.
Right.
It's in here. Yeah, no.
We'll loop back around.
So he is described as hairy, muscular, bipedal creature, about 6 to 9 feet tall, with enormous footprints as large as 24 inches long and 8 inches wide.
That's actually that's what I look like.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody who hasn't seen a picture of me, picture 6 to 9 feet tall, somewhere in there. Just like, who knows,
I feel like
roll a die.
How hairy Bigfoot is something that neither of us could personally achieve.
Wow. Okay. You're right, but it still stings.
So the name Bigfoot, which you brought up, comes from the Wyandot people of the land around present-day Lake Ontario, now located in Oklahoma. A chief in the 1830s was given the name Bigfoot due to the enormous size of his feet, great height of over 6 feet, and Herculean strength. And a couple of other tribes were also noted to have chiefs or leaders that were named Bigfoot. And it's thought that because a lot of the Bigfoot mythology originates from indigenous people in the United States, that the name kind of translated over.
Okay, so two things, both about how everybody's surprised. Liberal pinko commie Devin is going to talk about how the West is bad. But 2 points. One, no more saying Herculean strength. We only say Bigfoot strength now.
Yeah.
And two, the fact that we call this hairy, scary creature a name that was given to like actual human beings who use that name as a name kind of stinks. Mm-hmm. And when I say kind of stinks, it really stinks. We should probably talk about that sometime, but keep going.
But so the most notable Bigfoot sighting is the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, filmed alongside at the Klamath River, I believe, in Northern California by Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. If you're picturing like a Bigfoot film in your head, this is probably the one you're thinking of. It's the one of Bigfoot like walking amongst the brush, and then like he's so it shows a reportedly female Bigfoot walking amongst the trees and brush and briefly turning to look at the camera as she walks away. Neither of the men have ever admitted to it being a hoax.
It was a lady
Bigfoot. Now, this raises the question because people said, oh, this is proof that Bigfoot is a species because this is a different female Bigfoot. What if the original Bigfoot was always a lady?
What if what if Bigfoot's a woman?
Yeah,
just like God.
It's just the one Bigfoot. And she's a very strong, powerful lady.
Yeah, she's 6 to 9 feet tall and she's got big foot.
Yeah.
Just one, though. Doesn't have big feet. Just one Bigfoot.
So today, Bigfoot is a huge cultural icon, especially in the Pacific Northwest. In 1969, Skamania County, Washington, officially passed a law that declared the hunting of Bigfoot a felony. Whatcom County, Washington, is officially declared a Sasquatch protection and refuge area as well.
I wonder if she knows that she's safe in
there?
Whatcom County. Yeah.
I'd like to think. I think
does.
there's a sign outside of like that part of the
but
forest.
Can she
like
read?
Reserve. She's been around for a while.
Has anybody befriended her and taught her how to read?
I hope so. And she's been around for a while. She might have just picked it up.
Yeah, fair.
And Willow Creek, California, near where the Patterson-Gimlin film was captured, is known as the Bigfoot capital of the world. Bigfoot is basically the town's mascot, a la Witches to Salem or the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. The town is home to the Bigfoot Motel, Bigfoot Steakhouse, Bigfoot Books, and the 1.5-pound Bigfoot burger with buns shaped like giant feet.
Okay, so one, that's great.
Yeah.
Two, a few weeks ago, we created a phenomenon that's sweeping the nation, the Universal Classic Monsters boy band. Everybody loves it. Yeah. Everybody's wild about it. I now want to create another kind of AU idea born from this podcast, which is a like county filled with like a bunch of different high schools, all of which have weird mascots. So you
like
have
a March Madness situation.
Yeah. So you have like the witches and the headless horsemen and the Bigfoots, the big feet. And, or is it the
I would say
Bigfoot?
It's the Bigfoots.
I think it's like attorneys general. It's the Bigfoot. And they all compete in football.
Yeah. Just football? I feel like the Bigfoots have an advantage if it's just football.
Well, they play big football.
There's many other Bigfoot type creatures located in other parts of the world, such as we talked about the Yeti before, native to Himalayan folklore, a hulking ape-like creature that wanders the snowy mountains, and the Yeti folklore has existed for literal millennia. Fun anecdote I found: in 326 BC, Alexander the Great demanded to see a Yeti when he conquered the Indus Valley, but the locals told him that the creature could not survive at a low altitude and could not come down from the mountains.
God, that gay man. That stupid
Alexander.
gay man. He just created one of the largest empires in the world, and he went, "Show me a Yeti," and that was he actually
and the
when
locals
they said
punked him.
They punked him, and when they said no, we can't, he went, "I guess I'll go get bitten by a mosquito now. Goodbye."
Yeah. There's also the skunk ape or swamp cabbage man, swamp squatch, Florida's Bigfoot, etc. He is a humanoid.
Florida's Bigfoot. Florida's Bigfoot sounds like a roadside attraction.
Yeah.
That's just a Bigfoot on the side of the highway, and you go and you take pictures next to it.
The skunk ape is a humanoid orangutan type creature named for its unpleasant odor that's it's said to wander the southern United States, notably Florida. Interesting, when Gatorland reopened after COVID closures back, I think they were the first attraction in Florida to reopen, which is very on brand for Gatorland.
Yeah.
They used the social distancing skunk ape as a new mascot to encourage social distancing because he smelled so bad and was terrifying.
Well, he's not terrifying. He's a friend, but he does smell bad, so he stands 6 feet away. I like that very much. I do also like that Florida was like, no, we don't smell because of our very bad swamps everywhere. There's just a swamp squatch somewhere.
It's a skunk ape. So now that we're kind of getting
swamp
into...
squatch just regular Sasquatch who moved south because he was getting older, and so he moved to Florida to
like
grow old and die. Yeah, like a snowbird.
I feel like it goes Yeti, Bigfoot, swamp squatch, like moving south. Like Yeti sick of the snow.
Yeah.
Moves to the, like, does exactly what my grandma did, which is moves to the northeastern United States and goes, no, it's still too snowy here, and then goes down to Florida.
They're like Pokemon. Depending on which region they're in, they have different variations.
Yeah. So now that we're getting into semi-aquatic territory, I would like to talk about the sea monster genre of cryptid.
I like how you said that. Sea monster.
Sea monster.
Rather than sea monster.
But this, I feel like this kind of lore dates back to like stories of the Kraken and stuff and the elusiveness of the giant squid. So obviously we're going to come up with other crazy things. It could be living in big old bodies of water. Most notably, the Loch Ness monster, I think is like when you say cryptid,
Nessie.
like the first thing you think of is Bigfoot and the second thing you think of is Nessie.
That's fair. I think as of a few years ago, for me, it became Mothman.
Yeah, Mothman has risen in prominence, and we'll talk about him. But Nessie...
and Jersey Devil should be getting up there. He's getting his own roller coaster at Six Flags.
He should gain some prominence. But the Loch Ness Monster is said to be a sea serpent-like dinosaur kind of creature, kind of like a brontosaurus, but with flippers instead of legs.
Like a Tropius from Pokemon, but without the... leaf wings and bananas hanging from his neck.
I believe you. Sure. And she inhabits Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. She is described as large, long-necked, and having one or two humps that often protrude from the water. She is also described as being very shy, suggesting to why humans can't seem to find her.
Yeah, she just she's very bashful.
Yeah.
She found out that somebody got a picture of her and she's like, no, delete it.
She was first brought to worldwide attention in 1934 when the famous surgeon's photograph, supposedly taken by Robert Kenneth Wilson, a London gynecologist, which is why it's called the surgeon's photograph.
The surgeon's photograph.
Because he didn't publish his name with it originally. He just said like a surgeon. It was published in the Daily Mail in 1934. It's a blurry black and white photo of the creature's head and neck emerging from the water. Again, if you're thinking of a photo of the Loch Ness Monster, this is probably the one you're thinking of. It was used for 60 years as proof of Nessie's existence by many, although still dismissed by scientists. But since 1994, most agree that the photo is an elaborate hoax. It was allegedly a setup by three pranksters using a toy submarine, who then gave the photos to Wilson, who sold them to the Daily Mail. The toy submarine was sunk in the lake and is presumably still there, which is kind of cool.
That's a long way to go for a prank, but also... that means that this is a verifiable thing, that somebody could go down and find the submarine.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has actually tried, but allegedly, if this is the story behind the photograph, it's still down there. So somebody could go get it.
Yeah, and just a brief note. So the kind of two notable pieces of evidence that we talked about for the kind of creature that became popular in the early 20th century are film and photographs, which makes a lot of sense because when people started seeing photographs, they just assumed it was real. Yeah. Because the only thing they had seen before that were like paintings and stuff, which is why like there was also a photograph that two small girls made
of the fairies,
of fairy stickers that they just put on the film.
Mm-hmm.
And people were like, "Oh, fairies!" Like because
people didn't know about doctoring photos yet.
Yeah. Well, no, it's surgeon. It's the surgeon's photo, not a doctor's photo, but that's understandable.
So like Bigfoot, Nessie has become a huge cultural icon for the area surrounding Loch Ness in Scotland. It's said that Nessie is worth 41 million pounds a year in tourism to the Scottish economy.
How much is that in stone?
I don't know.
Get it? Because it's
I do.
It's a weight. Thank you.
So there are several Nessie hunting boat trips that you can take. The Loch Ness Center and Exhibition, where you can learn more about the area's history and Nessie sightings, and Nessieland, an interactive family museum where you can take your picture with the big old Nessie statue.
That's good.
Yeah, I like Nessieland.
Like, again, I'm sure there's no those places are probably not predicated on the idea that they're like in the old days, like duping them and making people think there is definitely a Loch Ness Monster. Like, I'm sure families that go there are like, let's just go see Nessie.
It's not like a P.T. Barnum situation. It's more like a Ripley's Believe It or Not situation.
What if I swam to the bottom of Loch Ness and found Nessie instead of the submarine? Unless.
JK. There's also Champ, Nessie's American counterpart, the lake monster of Lake Champlain between Vermont and New York in the United States. She is described as being pretty similar to Nessie in like size and appearance, but not much else is known about her. Her most notable sighting is in 1977 when amateur photographer Sandra Mancy released a photograph that appeared to show Champ's head and neck sticking out of a lake. However, experts have dismissed this as the area where the photo was taken is only 14 feet deep, and it would be impossible for such a large creature to swim, let alone hide in such shallow water.
Why do we suck at naming things in America?
I like Champ. I think that's cute.
No, I think it's cute, but like if you're gonna name
sometimes they call her Champy.
That's what I think it should be. Is Champy. Okay.
They call that there is both.
That's what I think it should be.
She's still a revenue-generating attraction there. The village of Port Henry, New York, holds a Champ Day celebration on the first Saturday of every August. And she's the mascot of Vermont's only minor league baseball team, the Vermont Lake Monsters.
That's another high school. Add it in.
Yeah, I put it into the county. What's this county called?
I'll get back to you. Let me stew on it.
Tweet it at us what this county's called.
Yeah.
So the last kind of flavor of cryptid I want to talk about is the winged creatures flavor.
Yes.
If there's cryptids of the land and cryptids of the sea, there's obviously going to be cryptids of the sky. Most famously and most popular in the past 5 years.
When they killed the Titans, they had to divide up the world, and Zeus was like, I want the Sasquatches, and Poseidon was like, I want the Loch Ness Monster, and then Hades is like, I guess I'm left. Oh, wait, no, Zeus got the winged, Zeus got Mothman.
Yeah, Zeus is technically
and
the
Hades
sky.
was like, hell yeah, give me the Sasquatch.
Yeah. So the Mothman is pretty localized to West Virginia folklore, specifically Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and was really only relevant there until like the past 5 years when the internet kind of put him on a pedestal.
Yeah, fair. I guess like I feel like growing up in middle of nowhere, New York, not middle of nowhere, ex-urban New York. Mm-hmm. I feel like I knew about Mothman.
See, I feel like I didn't know about Mothman until he had his like internet fame.
All right. Well, I guess you weren't as big of a moth stan as I am.
So, he is described as shadowy, humanoid winged creature with glowing red eyes seen flying over the skies of Point Pleasant. His first recorded sighting was on November 15th, 1966, when a young couple claimed their car headlights had caught a large gray creature whose eyes were glowing red, and the creature had 10-foot wings.
Now, is this not also kind of like Granddaddy of the Bats?
It's similar. Yeah, I think they fall into a similar category. I mean, totally different parts of the world, but
they are friends.
They are friends. The sightings continued over the next few days, with all witnesses reporting that the creature had red eyes. The sheriff at the time attributed the sightings to an unusually large heron or sandhill crane.
They don't get that big, silly sheriff. It was
sandhill
Mothman.
Cranes do. I looked it up. They can get like as tall as like a human man.
Can they get 10-foot long wings?
I don't know, but I don't like that. Like that's a very big, but like an ostrich, I expect to be big.
Well, but picture a heron, right? It's probably like neck outstretched as tall as you. That makes sense.
That's still tall.
But the body's not going to be that big. You could still take that. I mean, you probably couldn't take that heron, but somebody could probably take that heron. The heron would
probably mess you up.
Yeah.
So more recently in 2016, a photo was taken of Mothman in Point Pleasant, showing him flying through the sky. And the anonymous photographer said he saw it jumping from tree to tree. You've probably seen this one around. It's literally just shadowy figure of something in the sky with wings.
Yeah, that was actually me. My uncle made me these bronze wings with wax in between them. But I flew too close to the sun, and so I had to go down. And
you flew at night, though, so your closeness to the sun was pretty admirable.
Yeah, but the moon is really the sun of the nighttime. So the moon,
that old saying,
melted my wax.
What is the moon but the sun of the nighttime? So every September, Point Pleasant holds a Mothman festival featuring the Mothman Museum, a big street fair, drinks, games, T-shirts, people come in costumes. Like it looks like a grand old time.
I think we've talked a lot about, plans to go places after the world is slightly better. I want to go to this.
I absolutely
not that
want to go
far.
to this, not only for this festival, but for the huge Mothman statue that sits in the center of town. I've always wanted to make a pilgrimage to this incredible Mothman statue that sits in the
The
center of Port
Hajj
Pleasant,
to the
West Virginia.
Mothman statue.
Because it's got a like 6-pack abs and a really defined butt for some reason.
Yes, that was made for me. My two husbands, the man in the fields and Mothman.
Yeah.
The Mothman in the fields.
Wow.
Also, if you haven't seen, related note, if you haven't seen, we have a very cool Man of the Fields sticker available for patrons.
It's
so
really
go check
cute.
it out.
It's super cute. He's got a little head and he loves you very much.
He's so cute.
However, on this side, this coast of the country, our version of the Mothman, I think I would argue, is the Jersey Devil.
Yes.
Now, the Jersey Devil inhabits the Pine Barrens of southern New Jersey. He is described as being a kangaroo-like creature with the head of a goat or a horse, very like leathery bat wings, hooves, a forked tail, and little bitty arms.
Yeah, I understand we're using the wings as like an idea for the Jersey Devil, but like I always have pictured the Jersey Devil as much more grotesque than other cryptids.
Yeah, I mean, most of the
Like-
etchings and like drawings of him are quite scary.
Yeah, like kind of like a satyr,
Yeah,
but with wings and a devil tail.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Jersey Devil does have a pretty scary story behind him, a story that my older cousins, growing up in New Jersey, my older cousins would tell me and frighten me very much.
Very good.
But so the story goes that in 1735, Jane Leeds, or Mother Leeds of the Pine Barrens, had 12 children. When she found out she was pregnant for the 13th time, she cursed the child and said that it came from
my
the
God.
devil. When she gave birth, the child was born normally, but quickly changed into a creature with a forked tail, hooves, and the head of a goat before flying away into the Pine Barrens. And because of this story, the Jersey Devil is also known as the Leeds Devil, or the Devil of Leeds from the family.
I like that very much. It's like the 13th floor on a hotel. Everybody actually skips from the 12th child to the 14th child because of that.
Everyone in New Jersey.
Yeah,
and the
but
Leeds-
also the nice thing about the Leeds Devil, or the Devil of Leeds, is that gives us a way to add them to the high school competition without infringing on the hockey team.
the NHL team.
Yeah.
And the Leeds were they were a family that has been reported to have lived in the Pine Barrens during this time period, but unconfirmed as to whether this actually happened to this poor woman. So Jersey Devil sightings began in the 18th century, and during January 1909, newspapers were suddenly flooded with hundreds of stories of Jersey Devil encounters. This prompted school and work closures around the area and sent groups of hunters and vigilantes into the Pine Barrens searching for the devil.
Oh, did they? I don't like that. Kind of
Presumably they didn't
Frankenstein's
find him.
monster. Well, yeah, but I don't. He must have been scared.
I mean, Jersey has embraced the devil since, which is just a general sentence you can say about Jersey as well.
It's not the cryptid, just the dude.
He's obviously the name of their major NHL hockey team, and several parks around the area of the Pine Barrens offer Jersey Devil hunts. Yeah,
So we're still hunting him down.
I mean, some are. Maybe just to
Yeah.
Maybe it's like
Or
a whale
maybe-
watching. I would like a whale watching tour, but for cryptids. Just watch them in
Maybe-
their natural habitat.
Maybe Six Flags found him, and when they open up their RMC Raptor, the Jersey Devil, then they're going to be like, also here he is, and they'll release him into the night.
Into the
One second,
park.
I'm going to interrupt the podcast real fast.
Okay.
It's very important. We're calling my dad because I want to quiz him to see if he knows the Jersey Devil story. This awkwardness is just going to be cut out in post.
Hello?
Hello, is dad there?
Yeah, why didn't you call his phone?
I tried to, and then he sent me to voicemail, which was very rude of him.
Oh, you sent him to voicemail, Michael.
Can you hand him the phone, please?
Yes. Well, he has his do not disturb on. He'll call you right back. Bye.
Okay, bye. All right, so I guess we're waiting just a moment more.
Yeah.
Hello, Father.
Hello.
Welcome to the Great American Scream. It's a ghastly and goofy tour of America's favorite haunted stuff. Today, we're talking about the Jersey Devil.
Am I live?
You're live on the
Live,
show.
in a sense.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you are. You're not live.
But I'm okay. But
You're
you're
live-
planning on recording me?
Live to tape. Yeah, I'm in a two-party state. Do you consent?
I consent, yes.
Okay. What's the story that you remember about the Jersey Devil?
Do you want the origination story or both or what?
What's the story that you got told like as a kid, like about this dang devil, man?
Well, there's two. I mean, one's the origination story,
All right,
how the
well,
devil came to be.
Whatever makes for better radio, Dad.
Okay, then. You're putting me on the spot, you know?
Yeah, I am.
So, in the Pine Barrens, way back in like the 1700s, this is the origination story.
All right.
There was a woman who lived in the Pine Barrens, and she was miserable because everybody who lives in the Pine Barrens is miserable. And she had 12 children. Yeah, 12 children, even dozen.
Yeah.
And she was married to a drunkard. You know, he beat her and all that kind of stuff, and town drunk. And so she got pregnant again with the 13th child. And it was a dark, stormy night there in the Pine Barrens. And in this cabin, the wind blowing and through the logs and everything, and miserable rain and all. And she went into labor, and they got the midwife to come in. And as she was being born, as she was giving birth, she was so angry and so tired of having all these kids and this rotten husband that she said, "I don't want another baby. Let it be the devil." And when she said that, this black winged creature, right? So like the head of a horse, wings of a bat, a devil tail, hooved back feet, but clawed front feet, came out of her birth canal and screeched, landed on the table and let out this huge screech, and then flew out the open door. And that's how the Jersey Devil came to be.
Wow.
And ever since then, the Jersey Devil has haunted the Pine Barrens.
Wow.
And also, not only haunted the Pine Barrens, but also gave birth to the name of the New Jersey professional hockey team. That plays in the Meadowlands.
Which is the scariest bit of it all. Well, thank you so much, native New Jerseyan Mike Wright, for giving us that. You aced the quiz. You did it.
Thank you very much. I did study my American New Jersey mythological history.
Yeah, Adam was like fist pumping the whole time. He was so impressed.
Well, Adam, I'm glad I could do something that impressed you.
All right. Well, I love you. I'll call you after the podcast is done.
All right. I love you too. If you need me, for anything else, the monster of Matawan Creek or anything, let me know.
Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
See, what did I tell you? Every native New Jerseyan knows that story.
Because that was good. I liked that a lot.
That was really good. That was great. I mean, because the version I did was basically the abridged version of that.
Yeah,
full story.
I told him good radio, and he was like, on a dark and stormy night. Good for him.
But yeah, those are kind of a couple of starter cryptids, if you will. Like when you buy the Cryptid Essentials D&D pack, these are the first 5.
Cryptid starter pack, and it's 4 pictures. It's 2016 again.
These are the ones that you get. But yeah, hopefully we'll talk about some more cryptids in the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Great American Scream. If you enjoyed it, you can leave a rate or review on iTunes. You can also follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. But if you really enjoyed the show, please, to help us out, tell a friend about the podcast. I'm sure that you have a friend who would be just as interested in this pod as you are, and then you could talk about it with them. And you could also tell us about cryptids that you know about, so that next time we do an episode like this, just like the monster of Manasquan or whatever my dad said, that person could be on the show. Adam, can you pimp our social medias?
Yes, you can follow us on Facebook at The Great American Scream, or on Twitter and Instagram at Great Scream Pod. If you have any cryptids that you would like us to cover or cryptids that are local to your area that maybe a lot of people don't know about, tweet at us or post using the hashtag TGAS. And let us know if there's anything you want to hear about on the show, because your suggestion could become a future episode. We are also on Patreon now at patreon.com/greatscreenpod, I believe.
Yep, that is patreon.com/greatscreenpod. And on that note, a special thank you goes out to actually all of our patrons right now. We're shouting all of them out until we reach a certain amount. So a special thank you goes to Bree, Gail, Joyce, Brucker, Melinda, and Chris. I've been Devin Wright.
I've been Adam O'Connell.
And hopefully you have been spooked. Stay safe. Stay determined. We've worked hard. Still a lot of work to do. We love you. Goodbye.
We love you. Go find Bigfoot. Find him safely.